This podcast is sponsored in part by Benjamin Hart.
That's me.
And yours truly, Zach Arnold.
And by participation from listeners like you. So let's tune in to another episode of
IPC.
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 IPC. IPC. IPC.
IPC.
IPC.
IPC. The Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast.
All the galaxies.
All for you.
Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast, broadcasting live right here on Fandom Empire on YouTube. Man, oh man, it's good to be back and talking about something that you guys in particular picked yourselves. Because we had other plans this week. I'm just gonna say we were thinking about doing something else, and then you guys were like, no, we're doing something completely different, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. As you see from what's around me, we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones. Raiders of the Lost Ark turns 40 years old this month, and we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be reading you guys' questions and comments, and it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. Before we can do that, of course, introductions are in order. My name is Ben, and joining me is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Zach Arnold. How's it going, man?
Dude, I almost died tonight.
I heard.
This show almost didn't happen. I'm just putting that out there. This show legit was minutes away from being postponed because I literally thought I was going to be bedridden or I was going to have to go to the hospital. And I didn't like the prospect of either of those. And so I popped a couple of Benadryl, and I'm fighting through the side effects of that. And here I am.
Thank God.
For those of you who don't know, and there's probably a lot of you out there who don't know me as well as you're about to get to know me, I am deathly allergic to pineapple. Of all the weird things, there's peanut allergies, there's gluten allergies, there's shellfish. Mine is pineapple. It's the damnedest thing, and 95 to 99% of the time, I don't really have to think about it or worry about it. Pizza really isn't my scene. I prefer pasta. That's just been a personal preference. Maybe it's because I've grown to appreciate that since I developed the allergy. I don't know, but I really don't have to worry about pizza all that much, and most of the time, I don't have to worry about it in the other foods that I eat. I'm just not a fan of pina coladas. I'm not really a fan of, pineapple burgers or whatever. So, most of the time I don't have to worry about it. But tonight I went to a party and they had this thing called a taquero, which is a person that does mobile setup and takedown for tacos. And the tacos that they made had pineapple in them, of all things. And I wasn't there when I got my food. My girlfriend actually got me the food, and I didn't really look at it because I was thinking tacos, not a big deal. But yeah, there was actually pineapple, diced up little pieces of pineapple in the taco, and I ate one of them. And that is the first time that I have eaten pineapple straight up. I've had cross-contamination with some pineapple residue before, where somebody made a pina colada and then made my frozen margarita, and I got sick from the leftover pineapple juice. But I haven't eaten pineapple directly in almost 14 years.
Wow.
And so that's how well I've been able to actively avoid it. But tonight was just a very freak accident. Nobody really knew anything. Nobody could have guessed. Nobody could have predicted. I'm not mad at anybody. But I did have to pop 2 Benadryl as soon as I found out that pineapple was in the taco. I had one street taco. Those are made on silver dollar tortillas that are about that big.
Right.
One. And it had some diced up pineapple, so probably maybe 1, 2, 3 at the max, little pineapple chunks. And it's enough to make me sick. So
we are in a race right now to get this show done before the Benadryl kicks in.
I mean, it's kicking in a little bit. You're going to get like a little bit of the crazy Zach tonight, but that's okay.
I like that, Zach. So.
Crazy Zach is fun Zach. So we're going to have some crazy fun tonight. Talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark. Going back to the topic of the evening, not talking about me. I don't like talking about myself. DMT Infinity says in the chat, Zach definitely doesn't like pineapple on pizza. Zach just doesn't like pizza. And I know that's not going to be a very popular statement. But like I said, I will take fettuccine Alfredo over any kind of pizza most any day. So
I remember going to I think it was the Rogue One premiere with you in Hollywood at the Chinese Theater. And Steven Stanton, voice of Admiral Raddus and all those characters, brought pizza to the theater. And like boxes and boxes, we're like, yay, pizza. And Zach sitting over in the corner like, okay, so I saw this Mexican place like 2 blocks down. I'm going to go there. I'm like, oh, poor Zach. But like, I get it. I totally get it. Like you just can't take any chances.
Like, no offense to Steven or any pizza establishment, but they don't exactly hire rocket scientists that work there all the time. So if somebody so much as takes a pizza roller and rolls a Hawaiian pizza and then rolls my cheese pizza or whatever, that cross-contamination is enough to give me a stomach ache. And so anything more than that, and we're talking hospital visits. So definitely not a fan of pina coladas, not a fan of Hawaiian pizzas. It's part of my life, and I've learned to live with it. But the interesting dynamic, and I swear I'm going to stop after this. The interesting dynamic is I'm in a relationship, and up until now, it's really not something that she has had to think about. And bless her heart, she has to start thinking about it now for my sake. And I love her for that, and I appreciate it a lot. But it's also super not fair to her because it's not her allergy. It's not something that she needs to restrict herself on. It's not something that she's supposed to check on all the time. And yet now she is. And so if she ends up watching this, which I sincerely doubt because she's still at the party, thank you for looking out for me and being concerned about me, babe. I appreciate it. There's nothing that anybody could have done. But the Benadryl is holding off the stomach pains for now. And it's going to kick into high gear and get me crazy in the not too distant future. Which is perfect to celebrate a crazy anniversary like this. Dude, we've seen set photos of Indy 5. People have been sending us stuff about that. And here I am thinking, oh my God, Harrison Ford's pushing 80, which means he was pushing 40 when they made this movie because it's coming up on being 40 years old as of tomorrow. It is insane to think about that this franchise started 40 years ago. And here we are 40 years later, still watching Harrison Ford kick ass like he always has and always will.
He's unstoppable. I think genuinely he drank that cup in Last Crusade, drank that water, and it just gave him eternal life. It gave Harrison Ford eternal life. He's never going to stop.
That's the only explanation. At this point,
like, it's amazing to see the photos. And guys, if you haven't seen, just like Google, Indy 5 photos or just go on Twitter or whatever. They're everywhere. And there's photos of him all dressed up. He's back in the hat and the fedora and got the whip and everything. And there was the most recent ones were with Toby Jones out in the UK.
I saw that.
We didn't even know he was in the movie. And now he's showing up on set out in the English countryside I think it was near the Scottish border, out there doing Indy 5 stuff. So I don't know what's going on. There was a castle on fire at some point.
There were mocap dots on his face too.
You're correct there. You are and shout out to our good buddy Jake Damon, who we were talking to before the show. He could not make it tonight, but he pointed out a lot of different things, and he said that there was mocap stuff. If you look on him, like his jacket, there was like dots right there, and there was stuff around here. And so
if you zoom in on the picture of his face, he looks like he's got chicken pox.
Oh wow, I didn't even see that.
Like straight up, like big freckles all across his forehead and cheek.
And there's another shot. There was another sequence during the night where he's on a motorcycle, and there's like a train, like a big Nazi train. So like we're going back in time clearly to, and because last time movie he was fighting communists, so that was the whole thing. But this time there was someone, because they use these things in movies now where they'll have a stuntman wear like a really realistic mask that is really detailed, look like it's a Harrison Ford Indiana Jones mask, but it's got brown hair, not gray hair. So that's a tip off that we're going back in time, y'all. Probably
a little flashback.
I'm assuming at the very least it's going to be like Last Crusade style. Going back, the opening sequence will be young Indy, and then we'll flash forward to the 1960s, maybe, where older Indy is doing whatever he's doing. Or maybe it's more. Maybe it's more than what we think. Maybe it's more part of the movie that will have kind of bridging the gap. Because yes, Harrison Ford is getting a bit old. He's maybe not able to do all the stuff that he used to do, understandably. But now that they can kind of have this technology and go, okay, maybe we can fill in with stuntmen, we can do this different things, and have a story that maybe even is set prior to Raiders of the Lost Ark, because Jake and a bunch of other people have been pointing out that Toby Jones could be playing Abner Ravenwood.
That would be cool.
If you just watched Raiders, which we did, guys, I hope everyone got the test and prepared for this episode, because we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark tonight. And so what part of that movie is you got Marion, and Abner is, of course, dead at that point. He says, all this stuff happened 10 years prior. So are we going 10 years in the past before Raiders? And if so, we're going to deal with a really young Indy. That could be interesting.
There's a lot of potential out there, and I like the casting of Toby Jones. I really, really like the casting of Toby Jones.
Great.
Regardless of the role he's playing, he is one of those guys that fills a role you didn't know needed to be filled until you see him play it, and then you're like, oh, he was perfect for that. He's one of those obscure perfect castings. And to have that opportunity for him in an Indiana Jones film is awesome. I almost forgot. Jesse said, dude wrecked a plane and lived. He's immortal. Yeah, Harrison Ford, he's unstoppable. He really is. And Alex, I'm going to address your question as well. I have an allergy to shellfish. Does Benadryl actually help? That would be useful info. In all honesty, Alex, it really depends on the severity of the allergy. Because for some people, like with peanuts, their throat swells up and they have to have epinephrine. For me, it's more of a digestive allergy. I end up feeling like my stomach is trying to eat itself. That's the best way I can describe it. It's as if I'm being bitten from within, not from without. Sometimes I've felt dogs biting or kids biting your arm or something like that. That is the impact coming down onto you. This is coming out from it as if I've got an alien in my stomach or something.
Your body's rejecting it. Your body just doesn't like it. Okay,
scientifically, one of the strongest acids in food is the acid found in pineapple called bromelain. My theory,
a lot of barbecue sauces.
Yes, it is. It's in Sweet Baby Ray's, and I hate going to Rangers games and not being able to eat barbecue sauce because they are the official barbecue sauce of the Texas Rangers. What the F, whatever. But with me, I posit the theory that the bromelain is actually fighting my stomach acid, and my stomach acid is losing. Because once I'm finished digesting it, once it runs its 36 to 48 hour course, I'm back to normal. And so I feel like I'll be fine by tomorrow, but mine is a digestive allergy. So yes, the Benadryl does help kind of numb the pain and work against those allergens. But for somebody that has the type that you break out, or the type that, your throat swells up and you can't breathe anymore, it's probably safest to have an EpiPen, but I don't carry one because I just never let my allergy get that severe.
Yeah, my only experience, all my allergies are outwardly. So unless I go eat some grass or eat a cat, I'm okay. There's no.
I could make so many eating cat innuendos right now, but I'm not going to.
or eat a dog, and that just gets weird. All right, it just gets weird. Man's best friend, not meant to be. Okay, real quick, I just want to go over because there has been a lot of news for Indy 5, and we're going to get into Raiders of the Lost Ark very, very shortly before Zach goes to sleep. But
I'm sleeping in tomorrow. You can bet on it.
Yeah, I think you earned it at this point. So this is directed by James Mangold, not by Steven Spielberg. Spielberg is out. Lucas is out. We got images of Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall on set, so they're like the only OGs that are in the house. The rest is new blood, except for Mr. John Williams, who is back to do the music. Let's talk about someone else who is invincible, not going to stop, ever stop. John Williams just keeps on keeping on, and I'm here for more indie music from Johnny Williams.
Kiss a Wookiee, kick a droid, fly the Falcon through an asteroid. Yeah, we're going to get hit for copyright if I sing much more of that. So
Don't sue us, please. Don't sue us. Mr. Johnny Williams.
I love the Indiana Jones theme. Like the Raiders of the Lost Ark / Indiana Jones main title theme is, like, if I recall correctly, it's in my top 5, maybe just in my top 10. I don't recall. It's been a while since we've done our top 5 John Williams scores. I may have to go back and look at that list, but it's iconic. You hear that and there's nothing else that you think of. And like instantly things turn kind of that reddish yellow hue like you see in the frames here. Instantly you think of a fedora and a whip and a leather jacket. Like you hear that music and it's like you're going on an adventure again. And I love that he's coming back. I love that he's reprising the role. And I love the option of going with James Mangold. Like, don't get me wrong. I wish it was Spielberg. I truly do. But if there was ever anybody that could pick up the reins and take this to the next level, it would be the director of the movie Logan.
I agree. I think, having Harrison Ford back is great and all, but maybe injecting some new blood into this and getting a new perspective on this, I think is great, and giving Mangold the thing. I'm hoping in the future maybe he can do more. I'm just saying. I don't know if Harrison Ford is going to be. Is Harrison Ford's going to be doing this in his 90s? I'm hoping maybe they'll recast at some point, but like more indie from Mangold would be great.
More indie from Mangold, and dare I say, perhaps some Star Wars from him somewhere down the line.
He almost did that Boba Fett movie, apparently. Like, it was in the wind. It was going to happen. So hopefully he's on the Lucasfilm, he's in the Lucasfilm phone book. Hopefully they'll call him back at some point. And he could leapfrog from maybe how he got this job was he was almost doing both. Oh, would you rather do Indiana Jones? Okay. So I don't know, but I'm curious how this movie is going to set everything up and how it's going to end the saga or perhaps start a new one. Because I think this is obviously Harrison Ford's last one, probably. Of course, could have said the same about Crystal Skull, and here we are.
Yeah, true.
It's never say never with Harrison Ford, because as I said, he is a god. He's never gonna stop. But also, we got a cast. So we got as I said, Toby Jones, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, Thomas Kretschmann, Boyd Holbrook, and Shawnette Renee Wilson. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of others, but that's a really great cast, especially excited for Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen, who are fantastic.
Yes. I mean, obviously the only thing I really, really know Phoebe Waller-Bridge from is Solo.
Same.
But I mean, the best thing that I know Mads Mikkelsen from is Rogue One. So, like, I saw him in Casino Royale. I saw him in, what was it, Doctor Strange? Yeah, so, Dr. I mean, Strange. He's got some really great range, but his best range is as the villain. And if there was ever anybody that could do that villain type role, it would be him. But even if he's not, we saw with his role as Galen Erso that he could do the beleaguered hero if he needed to. So I'm just excited to have him on. I'm excited to have Waller-Bridge aboard, seeing Toby Jones. Like, this sounds like a game of 1, 2, 3. Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and Toby Jones. Yeah.
Sounds fake to me.
Seriously, it could be. But,
well, it would. I guess it would have been fake a few months ago, but now it's not. Now here we are. And just it's great cast, very exciting. And I've heard, I don't want to get too deep into spoilers, but I did hear something about Mads Mikkelsen possibly wearing a Nazi uniform.
That would not surprise me. I've seen like some swastikas on stuff in the background, and I think they did that on the train. I think there's like some sort of train sequence involved. Yeah. So like none of that would surprise me, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let me see. Yeah. I'm trying to keep up with some of the stuff in the chat as well. Hex Howell says, I hope we see George Lucas and Steven Spielberg on the set as well, and John Williams' music is nothing but gold. You know, Lucas showed up on the Mandalorian set, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to see him show up on the Indy set, especially something that was kind of one of his, projects, him and his and Steven's. Absolutely. And so, seeing something like that is definitely a possibility. But until we actually get confirmed photos, I'll just be like, yeah, it would be okay if he's there. It'd be okay. If not, George keeps daring me to sing more of that song. I tell you what I'll do, George, is maybe I'll record a video and I'll put it in the Intergalactic Peace Hangout so that we don't get slapped for copyright. Because since it's an acapella video, technically, I feel like we probably could get slapped for copyright if we sang too much.
Do it on TikTok.
I might. I haven't been doing much on TikTok lately. Go follow me at Zach the Voice on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, wherever you got socials.
Use that voice, man.
It's all the same username now, which is really cool.
That's branding.
That is branding done right. I had to pay for it. There was a guy on Instagram who already had that name, and I had to pay him for it. But I've got it on every platform now, which I consider an investment, because one of these days that's going to be worth something.
Yep.
But anyways, I hope Drew Sturzen comes back to do the poster artwork for the film, says Kenny. The indie posters are usually very, very top notch. So if they are able to do that would be cool.
It's funny. James Mangold has been like openly campaigning to get Drew Struzan back on Twitter. He's been like replying to all Drew Struzan's Twitter posts like, hey man, you gonna come back? And they're just like, maybe. So they're like, Kenny, James Mangold is in your corner. That's all I'm gonna say.
When you got James Mangold in your corner, I got a little fuzzy there. I stretched and now my thing's out of focus. Hello, that is my hand. Hello, this is my face. There we go. Wow. That's about how fuzzy my head feels right now, just being honest. But when you got stuff like that, this movie is basically setting itself up for success, which is the one thing that I'm probably most excited about.
Yeah. But okay, let's get into our actual discussion topic tonight. And I want to read a message from our good buddy Matthias, who. And like I said, we had something else thing. Full disclosure, we were going to talk about Justice League tonight. All right. We had
Snyder Cut.
Snyder Cut was on the table tonight. We were going to discuss it finally. And, we already planned on how much we were going to watch of it because it's 4 hours and we don't always have that kind of time. But we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And then Matthias sent us a message in the Intergalactic Peace Hangout, which if you're not a fan, and you're not a member, definitely go check that out. A lot of great discussions going on in there. He sent us a message and said, hey, Zach, Arnold, and Ben Hart, would you be interested in doing an episode on the first Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, since on June 12th, it will celebrate 40 years. Would be very fun to hear what you guys have to say. And then you put it to a vote.
Not much of a vote.
Like 20-1. I think Francisco was the only one who voted for Justice League.
Francisco, he said he was just trying to go against the grain. And rest assured, we will end up talking about the Snyder Cut at some point. It's worth discussing. But, I mean, overwhelming majority was like, yeah, let's go do Indiana Jones. Like, hello, is that even a question? Which I think is a testament to the franchise and a testament to the movie that even though it's turning 40 years old, people would still rather hear reviews about that than hear reviews about Justice League Snyder Cut, which came out this freaking year.
You hear that,
Like-
Zack Snyder?
Like, hey, Zach, your stuff still doesn't hold up to a 40-year-old film. Take that.
Oh boy.
Dude,
Well,
okay.
the people have spoken, and here we are. And we're
I-
going to
I
talk.
am-
We've
I
both
am
watched
not-
this movie, and we're going to
I'm-
talk about it.
I am not complaining about this at all. Like, I love this movie. I love this franchise, even though Temple of Doom kind of freaks me out a little bit sometimes. Like
Understandably.
it's the thing that created the PG-13 rating, basically. So, like, I think my concerns are justified. But I mean, I love what they did with this. It's so different. It's so unique. It's so original. It's so action-packed. And according to the Big Bang Theory, it's completely unnecessary.
I've been hearing this. This is a clip that you showed me recently, because I think also Matthias said, "Oh, guys, you got to talk about this." And there's this one episode of Big Bang Theory, and this has been floating around for a long time. I just watched the clip.
It's years old. Like, I looked up the wiki article. I'm going to collapse this because I don't want that. This episode came out in October of 2013. So this is a theory that's been going around for several years now. But, I mean, essentially, it posits that if Indiana Jones had not been a part of this raiding of the Lost Ark, everything that happens still would have turned out exactly the same. The Nazis still would have recovered the medallion, found the Ark, taken it to the island, opened it up, and all died. Just like they did.
Just been way more boring.
It just, I mean, you wouldn't have been having these epic chase scenes. You wouldn't have been having these romantic love interests. Like, you wouldn't have had any of this other stuff that you get in the film that makes it as epic as it is. But it's interesting to think about. Do you have any counterpoint that would like refute that idea that if Indiana Jones was not part of this adventure, that things still would have come out exactly the same?
I think the counterpoint is actually in that Big Bang episode, because at the end they kind of talk about, like, okay, well, they end up getting the Ark. Like, the Nazis are all killed, and Indy gets the Ark and takes it back to the US, and then it gets put into a giant warehouse. So he doesn't get it, but he gets it away from the Nazis. And, like, maybe, if what happened and Indy and Marion had not been there could have been a situation where, like, the Nazis came looking for their party and they didn't find them, but they found the Ark, and it could have still ended up in Nazi hands. Indy prevented that. So that's the biggest thing. But, it is funny. I think people sometimes take this a little too seriously, because that's what people do in fandom stuff online, is take things way too seriously.
Yep.
But, the whole idea of, like, oh, this movie doesn't matter. Like, no, it doesn't. It's just a fun thing to, like, think about. It's like, okay, this is, it is, like, generally speaking, yes, if Indy had not done what he did, they would have just gotten the plot would have just moved faster. Basically, it wouldn't have changed, which is fascinating from a storytelling point of view. It's like, okay, taking certain elements out, like, oh, what could happen? Not really much of anything would happen, because, like, they he stopped them from getting the medallion, which just slowed them down. They would have eventually found it. I guess they would have found it anyway, because, like, they're digging up the whole site. But, like, but it's just funny. It's very funny.
And they ended up digging in the wrong place, because the Nazi dude that grabbed the medallion only had one half of the inscription on his hand.
On his hand, yeah.
But if Indy doesn't go to Mongolia, then they probably end up getting the whole medallion, and they're able to interpret it and transcribe it and look in the correct place. Jesse is quoting the butterfly effect to us in the chat online. And he says, since he doesn't get involved, strategies change of the enemy, and people don't have that threat to respond to. That is true. They don't have that threat to respond to. But since they brought Belloc on as an advisor, regardless of whether Indy was going to have that rivalry with Belloc, I think he still would have advised opening it before opening it up for the Fuhrer. So the idea of I think Belloc is kind of the X factor here. If you have Indy advising somebody, or if you have somebody else advising the Nazis, whatever, like, then maybe they don't go to that island. Maybe those events don't transpire. But
I hadn't thought about that. The fact that like they like Belloc is like, okay, we don't want to open this in case like there's nothing in it. And we're going to get embarrassed by Hitler. They could have taken it to Hitler, and it could have killed Hitler. Like,
Exactly. So now that they know what happens, they don't take it to the Fuhrer. And, yes, it does go into storage, but he was supposed to recover it to be put on display at a museum. And he didn't even achieve that, which is something that they talk about in like the little final scene at the end of that Big Bang Theory episode. Season 7, episode 4, for those of you that are HBO Max subscribers. I've been going through the whole series. I'm in the final season right now, loving it, making so many great pop culture and sci-fi references. They've talked about Battlestar Galactica, Babylon 5, Star Trek, Star Wars, Firefly. Like, they've made so many nerdy pop culture references that I have a hard time keeping up sometimes. Freaking amazing.
And credit to the writers for pointing that out and like doing it in the way that like just perfection, like just that, and like making you think, and you're with them, you're like, no, you're wrong. Wait a minute, you're actually right.
They discuss it like 3 times.
It ruined the movie for you. Ruined Raiders of the Lost Ark, because that's what nerds do. It ruined it for us because we knew this information or whatever.
Here's the other thing to consider. If Belloc wasn't an advisor and they do bring it to the Fuhrer, then Indy does not get Hitler's autograph in The Last Crusade.
Yeah, there's no, I would assume
there's no autograph to receive.
There's no World War II either, I would assume, right?
Or somebody else just takes his place, because he had a pretty good following by that
That's point. The conundrum, though. That's the whole like time travel conundrum that people always think. It's like, okay, you get a time machine. Do you go back in time and kill baby Hitler? And it's like, probably not, because as we're learning in Loki, you tend to screw things up. You get off your path, you change things. Time travel movies have been telling us this for years, that you don't change anything because you can screw stuff up and make it even worse.
Small sidebar, really enjoyed that first episode of Loki.
Excellent. I'm really digging it so far.
I've heard that the second episode gets better, but I feel like that's a really subjective term, because in my opinion, this was the best of the 3 pilots. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed the pilot for WandaVision, but it's a very niche pilot. This one is accessible because it has direct ties into Endgame. And so, like, anybody that sees that particular scene and knows what happens, remembers what happens, they can pick up and hit the ground running exactly from that point on, and you're good to go. So I think it's the best pilot of the 3. You delve into Loki's storyline a hell of a lot more than you do even in Thor: The Dark World, which actually this show mentions the Dark World, implicitly, which is very brave of it, because most people would rather forget that the Dark World exists in the MCU.
It's amazing how relevant the Dark World has been these past few years, since that like Marvel was just like, oh yeah, that movie you didn't like and you just forgot about. Yeah, it's like extremely important to the overall plot of like the MCU and the whole, time heist and all that kind of stuff, and now coming back in Loki. That's a huge moment for him. Them losing their mother was massive. Loki was so close to her. And now I want to go back and watch the Dark World, because I'm like, was I wrong about that movie? Did it actually suck? Because it's kind of important now.
Yep. Okay, we're not here to talk about Loki. We're here to talk about Raiders. I personally find that theory from The Big Bang Theory to be rather amusing. But at the same time, I'm kind of with you, Ben, that we don't get the action drama comedy that we would if he wasn't in the film. And that's kind of the whole damn point, is to go on an adventure with Indiana Jones and see, what happens from his point of view. It's a first person, limited omniscient point of view perspective, watching these events happen through Indy's eyes. And it's got some of the best chase sequences, some of the best fight scenes, some of the best just spy work almost, when he's sneaking around on the U-boat slash submarine. I think it's a submarine. All these different components coming together to make one really, really awesome film. And whether he, has a role to play in the film or not is irrelevant. I just enjoy it. I enjoy it for what it is. And I wish Amy Farrah Fowler had done that, because I enjoyed it except for the glaring story problem. And I'm like, you ruining it. Stop it.
I think that theory just plays into the idea of Indiana Jones, that he's not an all-powerful character. He's not this guy that has all, his whole plan. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's, as he says, he's making this up as he goes. Like, that's part of his character. He is totally just winging it the entire time. And the fact that the whole movie is just a struggle for him to stay ahead, one step ahead, and he's usually 2 steps behind, because he's constantly fighting to get the Ark back. He gets it, and he has Mary, he loses her, and he gets there, and he finally gets the Ark, and then he gets taken away from him. That's his whole thing. It isn't until the very end that he actually comes out on top. That's part of his character. That's kind of the point of the whole movie, is that he's a character that struggles, and you see that in the the whole airplane fight is he gets his ass handed to him multiple times, but he still comes out on top. But he just gets he's the guy. He's the Captain America. He will keep.
He's
fighting.
the everyman. He's the underdog everyman, but also at the same time is kind of like a hero, because I sure as hell couldn't go up against a Nazi with burling biceps like that and push him into the propeller of a plane. That's not something that I could do personally. And so it's this very interesting blend of taking the everyman, the university professor, and the adventurer, and putting both of them together into one iconic character. It's so well done.
It is. It's just he just keeps fighting. He will get back up, and he is ultimately, and goes back to just the origins of the character, he's basically a cartoon character. The stuff that happens in this movie, this is almost a live action cartoon. And I know people love to hate on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because it's too goofy or whatever, does weird things. But this movie just alone is a cartoon in some places. I love the moment when the guy gets thrown out the front after Indy finally regains control of the truck. He gets thrown out the window and falls, and then you see a side shot of the truck going by, and the guy's arms and legs go throw up in the air as they hit him. That's a cartoon. That's a cartoon joke they just did in a live action movie. It's insane.
It is. And honestly, again, going back to some of those cartoony tropes, how many people in existence do you know that would end up being able to grab onto the front of a car and then go kind of underneath it and grab the piping and go along the bed of the truck and then heave yourself back up while the truck is driving 40, 50 miles per hour down the road?
It's insane.
I would not. It's an amazing feat of upper body strength on the part of the stunt double, but
he's been shot in the arm. He's got a gunshot wound. He's bleeding, and he's been beaten up all day long. Yet he's continuing. He keeps on keeping on, and he won't stop. He keeps, you're expecting him to say, "I can do this all day." Basically, that's if Captain America hadn't said it, I think Indiana Jones would have been a perfect candidate for that line, because it encapsulates him.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. And maybe that's why I gravitate towards this franchise so much. Drawing these parallels, I really gravitate towards Captain America as well. And so to see those parallels between the two of them, it makes perfect sense, except Indy didn't get injected with superhuman juice He's just
a guy. He's
just a guy.
teacher. Just a teacher? That's
He's a
exactly-
teacher. He's a teacher, all right, with some creepy ass students.
I'm telling you, man. Like they are so thirsty. They're thirsty.
The weird blinking she does. Like when you see him dismiss the class, how many dudes do you see in that class?
Oh, it's all dudettes.
It's very few. It's very few. And I'm not trying to sound sexist, but I feel like a lot of the girls in that class just took it as an elective so they could learn from Mr. Jones.
No, I think all of them. I think all of them are into him. I think all of them are into him, including the guys.
I was about to say there may be some representation going on there if everybody's taking the class.
The 1930s. Unfortunately, they're not able to express themselves, but I think they're just enjoying the view and let them.
I mean, I would enjoy taking a class that Harrison Ford was teaching. And then it's like almost 80 now. Like, I'd still just go sit in, but I wouldn't put love on one eyelid and you on the other eyelid and blink my affections to him. I think just weird.
That's a kind of a no-no anyway. Of like, yeah, you're in college and you're gonna go out with your 30-something-year-old teacher. That's a no-no, I think. So not a great idea, but they're still very thirsty, and it's funny because like it totally trips him up too. He's like very awkward, and he stops. He's like, okay, just class dismissed. Get out of here. You're creeping me out.
Just go. And to Chad's point in the chat, he says he was also just kind of a bad teacher. Like the dude would go on freaking sabbatical like probably every year or a couple of times a year. And like, what are the students supposed to do then? Just read the chapters and take the test? There's no Scantrons back in that day. So like, what are they supposed to do? Francisco says, I want them to do the nuclear blast refrigerator scene again. Wrong movie, dude. Not talking about that one tonight. But I sincerely hope they don't. That was one scene that I had a hard time forgiving, among others.
We've already been over that, all right? I'm not gonna. I have some hot takes on that. So
here's the deal. We've been over the entire Indiana Jones franchise before.
Very true.
We talked about this like our first year on the show. Like before we even got a logo, we talked about Indiana Jones franchise.
Episode 30-something.
It was very, very early on. And it was because it was such a popular franchise. It was such a popular request. We talked about all 4 movies in great detail back in 2014. So if you want to, go have a listen to that. We've got it available online in different platforms, different places. But it's been so long, I honest to God don't remember what I said.
Me neither. Like that's why I love doing these revisited things, because like I don't remember what we talked about. I don't remember what you said. I definitely don't remember what I said. So
the only top 5 that I remember is my top 5 movies that I'll never say no to.
Yeah.
I don't remember the sequence for any of the other top 5s. I wrote them down, I listed them off, and then we ended the show, and that was it. It was done. There's no more.
If we're being honest, I don't even remember what we talked about like 2 weeks ago. So like, it's these episodes, they happen and then they just whoop out my brain. I don't remember them. I don't retain anything. So I definitely ain't gonna remember something that happened 6 years ago.
Right. Man, has it really been that long? Jeez.
I would have to look up
6
like
or
the exact date.
6.5, probably.
Yeah, I would assume. It was like it was in that bottom 30 that we did Indy all 4, which is crazy.
Let me see. George sent a question. What's the deal with the U.S. government blatantly lying to Indy about the museum getting to study the Ark to figure out what its powers are? Zach. He's asking me.
Oh, well, by all means, you answer.
He's asking me.
I'll shut up.
George, I think the best comparison would be the Rotunda scene from The Phantom Menace. Bureaucracy gets in the way. Bureaucracy gets in the way of getting stuff done. And there's just a lot of bureaucratic incompetence saying, We need to file it and hide it and never use it again, as opposed to leaving it in a place where it could possibly, like, the museum could get broken into, that hell hath no fury could be unleashed a second time. It's not worth the risk. So they tell them they've got top minds working on it, when in fact those top minds are hiding it into obscurity so that its powers can't be utilized.
Well, and I also think that there is perhaps some OSHA violations there, some potential lawsuits if you put it in
Possibly.
a museum. Say, for example, you're working in a museum with the Ark of the Covenant. You're just sweeping the floors, you're mopping up after hours, and you bump into the Ark of the Covenant. You knock the top off of it. That's not going to end well for you. So maybe they were worried about, the cleaning crew maybe, getting the place haunted or something like that and getting their faces melted. So they decided, hey, it's better off in a place where no one will find it.
But again, I think that goes back to the bureaucracy of it all. Instead of doing more paperwork, instead of trying to figure out what the best options are, it's just put it in a box and take it away. Don't even think about it. Don't even worry about it. We're done with it. And then it makes a nice little cameo in Crystal Skull, which I thought was kind of clever. But for the most part, yeah, I feel like it's bureaucracy getting in the way. That's my bottom line.
Yeah. I also like Last Crusade, where they're in the sewers, I think, and there's like a hieroglyphic on the wall, and Elsa's like, "Oh, is that the Ark of the Covenant?" And he's like, pretty sure. He just just lets it go. It's like, yeah, I know all about that.
Been there, done that, doing this now.
But real quick, I want to talk about the pacing of this movie. How well made this movie is, just first of all. This movie is slightly less than 2 hours long. It feels so much longer than that to me. But it's just so well edited. It's tight. It moves like you're jumping from, South America to Nepal to Egypt. Like, you're doing all these things in a very short amount of time. You almost feel like whiplash. And for an older movie, which we all know, like, movies these days are like really quickly edited because like people don't have the attention spans anymore. We're all things. Indie feels like a modern film in that sense, that it's very just like they go right down to the wire. There's no leftovers. I don't know if there's any like extensive deleted scenes. I know there was a few I've seen, but like overall, it's very cleanly edited. And I think that's why what makes it so much fun is that you're never bored. There's no stopping points. Just movie goes, and you're just sucked into the action. And, and on top of that, the special effects, the acting, like there's so many things that just like they nail it. They absolutely nail it as one of probably the best movies ever. I'm just going to say.
My girlfriend would disagree with you, unfortunately.
Oh.
She told me she would rather watch Star Wars again than watch Indiana Jones again, because I told her I was gonna do the rewatch to get ready for this show, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be there." She's like, "Yeah, I'm not coming over that night."
Wow, she skipped out on the Indie rewatch.
She skipped out on the Indie rewatch because she would rather watch Star Wars. So there are a few people out there. They're probably in the minority, but there are a few people out there that feel like the story is not the best, the pacing's not the best. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe it's going too fast. Maybe it's going too slow. Like, I'm sure there are critiques out there for it, but
they're wrong.
Well, I mean, Amy's opinion from Big Bang Theory certainly got everybody thinking. So, I mean, I get it. There's going to be differences of opinion. There's going to be people that don't like it, that don't agree with it, that don't, enjoy it quite as much as others. But for the most part, I'd say it's one of the more accessible films. You don't have to really love sci-fi. You don't really have to love fantasy. You don't really have to love, laser swords whirring and spinning or anything like that. Like, most of what you end up watching is a regular guy, car chases, hand-to-hand combat scenes, a couple of gunfights. Like, you're watching stuff that's all very regular and very real, but taken to the next level in order to make it like entertaining. They just take everything up a notch, and I think that's what I like, is how up a notch the movie is In regards to the pacing and regards to just about everything else, they just try and take it to the next level and make it something superb. And in my opinion, they did.
Yeah, it's a very ambitious movie, especially for the time. It's trying to do so much, and there's so many. Just like every scene is iconic, from the flying wing scene to pretty much every second of the opening scene to the ending to the truck chase to everything. It's so iconic and so just legendary, and so it just sucks you in so much. And I think that's what makes it such a strong movie, is that like it's firing on all cylinders at all times. And it's a movie that's just so well, it's so well executed and so well written, and so it's so funny. It's a hilarious movie. Like I said, it's so goofy. It's not taking itself too seriously. This is not James Bond or anything like that. It's telling you this is weird, this is goofy, but it's supposed to be fun. And
did somebody say goofy?
Goofy.
Yep. Somebody definitely said that this movie was goofy.
It choked me up.
So now we're talking about the Goofy movie. Is that what we're saying?
Hey, I'm open to talking about the Goofy movie.
I broke Ben.
You did.
I broke him.
Look, one of us has got to stay well for the rest of the show. All right. You can't do this to me.
Jesse says, I'm introducing it to my daughter this weekend. I hope she likes it. She loves the Clone Wars, so hope she likes Indy. Well, Jesse, show her the Ryloth arc before you watch Indiana Jones, because the Ark of the Covenant actually shows up among Wat Tambor's treasures that he loads up on the shuttle right before he tries to escape. So there's a lot of Star Wars Indiana Jones crossovers, but that one's like one of my favorites.
I love that so much. And there's so many other Easter eggs passed between both franchises. That's just great.
And what was the one in the Ark room? It's a hieroglyph of 3PO and R2, right? I think that's something that we get. I actually pulled up an article that shows like the Easter eggs between the two franchises. I'm trying to see C-3PO and Obi-Wan. If you look closely, the plane serial number is OBCPO.
Yep. That's the Jock's plane is there.
I never knew that. And
then in the background of one of the shots, I don't know if it's actually be seen in the movie, but I know it's there. When Sala or Indy are going in to get the Ark out, there's a little hieroglyphic of R2 and 3PO. That was pretty well known. I'm trying to think of any others.
There's another one.
We do have a question about that later. We're going to have to tell about our favorite Star Wars reference in this movie.
Oh, yep, true. I guess I found it by looking at this article. We've confirmed that Hex Howl is actually Matthias. So thanks for tuning in from well out of our time zone, buddy. Fantastic special effects, and remember when the dude says, "Well, that's your opinion, man. We love this movie. That is what's important now." Glad to hear about you. Love this movie. Said earlier. We'll go back to sleep later, but I had to be on for at least a few minutes. Thank you, dude.
So good to have you, man. And thank you for this idea, because this wouldn't be happening without you.
Exactly. No, I mean, we put it to a vote afterwards, but your inspiration kind of helped us change gears. So thanks for that. Alex, I love the theory that the movies are just Han Solo's dreams frozen in carbonite. Ben, thoughts on that?
I love that so much. I love, like, what did he experience? Like, was it one big long dream or something? Like, and just the idea of, like, I don't know. I would love it if, like, they came back to Indy. I came back to Han. He's like, "Oh yeah, what was it like in there?" He's like, it was just this weird dream where I was in the desert and I was chasing this giant box of stuff and I had a hat and a whip. Like, it makes perfect sense. And, like, there has to be a connection somewhere. There has to be a connection between the franchises. There's too many things overarching that are bleeding through. It's like something is trying to tell us, like, the whole idea. There's a comic out there, again, adds to this theory that there's a comic where Indiana Jones' short round come across a wreckage of a ship in the forest, in the redwood forests, and they come upon a skeleton in the cockpit that is wearing a familiar vest and white shirt, and then they uncover also find evidence of a giant Bigfoot type creature living in the woods. Which take that as you will. Did I just blow your mind?
Little bit. I kind of need to watch this now.
This is a comic.
Read it.
All
read
you have to do is type in. I'm going to try to do it right now as we're doing this. You just go to Indiana Jones, Star Wars comic. Star Wars comic, and you'll see it. I don't know where this came from. I don't know if this is this. Okay. This is Wikipedia. Into the Great Unknown was this article is about Into the Great Unknown is a 10-page non-canon comic book that was written by W. Hayden Blackman. Within its pages, Han Solo and Chewbacca pilot their starship, the Millennium Falcon, blindly into hyperspace and end up crashing onto the planet in Earth's Pacific Northwest. Solo is attacked and killed by a group of Native Americans. 126 years later, his skeleton is discovered by the archaeologist Indiana Jones, who is searching the area for the fabled Sasquatch.
Oh, okay. Searching for Sasquatch, and then he comes across Chewbacca. That makes sense. It's from
the Star Wars Tales comic series, Into the Great Unknown. So I think you can find screen caps. You can find screen caps of it online.
Unknown. I haven't even watched the Frozen franchise recently, and yet I'm singing. Idina Menzel, man, what a voice! But I digress.
I'm telling you.
Matthias did send us a whole bunch of questions to talk about this movie.
He loaded us up with questions.
I guess he'll have to watch them after the fact, but these are all good questions because I'm looking at this going, ooh, I don't know. Ooh, I don't know. Ooh, tough to pick.
I think I have a couple answers to a couple of them. I'm going to have to do some thinking.
Yeah, some of these we might be like, but favorite character that's not Indy. Take away the hat and the whip, and you've got to find a favorite character in this movie. Who are you picking?
I think you spurred me on from earlier. I'm gonna say Belloc, because not just because he has such a dramatic, impact on the plot as we discussed, but I think he's a very layered character. He obviously is the primary antagonist. He's the villain. He's working with the Nazis here, and he's always taking away what Indy gets. But do you know what he was thinking when his face started melting off? What?
I did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming either.
Nazi jokes. I'm allowed to make those because we hate Nazis.
Yes, we hate Nazis. For the record,
I'm not making any Jewish jokes. Sorry.
No, let's not go there. But Belloc is a character that I think he's very layered, and he's not super evil. He seems to be. I don't know if it's for his own personal gain because he wants.
He's very greedy. He's very greedy.
He's very greedy, but he's not. I don't think he's with the Nazis because he believes in the Nazi cause. I think he's just
he's getting paid.
He's getting paid. They're going to help me get the Ark. He wants the Ark. He wants the big prize. That's what he wants. But he's constantly if you notice, he's constantly kind of looking out for Marion. He's kind of invested in her well-being, whether that's he wants to be with, whether he wants to be with her or not. He still cares about her to a certain extent, and he's not. I don't know. And he's just a layered character. I like his whole shtick of he just wants to be the bad guy. He just wants to be the antagonist. And his whole monologue in the diner in Egypt, it's a radio to God. It's great. That is his motivation. He's just fascinated on it. He doesn't care what he does in the meantime, who he has to kill, who he has to work with to get it. He's just interested in, I want the Ark. I want to see what's inside that thing. I love when he calls out and he's like, you want to see what's inside this thing too. You're not going to blow it up. I know you're not going to blow it up just go ahead. See, I know you won't do it.
And that's what makes him Indy's equal, is he is able to match him stride for stride. He understands his weaknesses, his tendencies. He understands the context of Indy's motivations and stuff, because he's like, those are like very similar motivations to the ones that I've got. And what's really weird is both of them are essentially doing it for the clout. I don't think Indy's going to get very well paid. I don't think the Nazis are going to pay a non-Nazi as much as they would somebody who was a Nazi. So, I mean, Belloc's not probably making a whole lot. Indy's probably not making a whole lot. But they're both racing after the Ark for the social clout and like the status of being the one who found and the one who captured the Ark of the Covenant or whatever. So Belloc's a good choice. Very, very close for me, but I think I got to give the nod to Sallah.
Also, a fantastic choice.
I love John Rhys Davies. I love him as Gimli, and he actually played a character in Star Trek Voyager. He was like a holographic advisor to the captain, and whenever she had these moral or ethical dilemmas, she would go and visit John Rhys Davies in the Holosuite. Holodeck. I apologize. Holosuites is Deep Space Nine. She would go and visit John Rhys Davies as Galileo in the holodeck. So he's got like this really nice resume, and he carries himself so well in this film. Like, he makes a great sidekick, all the way up to the point where he looks down the hole and he goes, "Asps. Very dangerous. You go first." I love it.
I love it, man.
Freaking love it. Sallah is he's so well written. He's so well performed. Like, he helps Indy, but at the same time, he like draws a limit. He's like, this is as far as I'm willing to go. And he takes it pretty far. He uses his connections. He, helps him get down using the rappel method in order to figure out exactly where the Ark is. Like, he helps him a lot. And all the while providing a little bit of comedic relief and just being someone who knows the area well enough to help Indy and Marion navigate their way through things as they try and get to the Ark first. I really love his character.
Yeah, I love his whole demeanor and his whole, like, he's this guy you can count on. And then also he's just like this bubbly, he has this thing, and I love in the end, his last scene, he gets a kiss from Mary and he just walks away and he's just joyously singing to himself. It's so just, adorable.
Reminded me of Reb Tevye a little bit from Fiddler on the Roof. I kept waiting for Sallah to just go like, "If I were a rich man." But,
yeah.
So I guess when Benadryl kicks in, I just sing more often. I don't know.
We're seeing the initial effects of it, I think.
We're getting there, but we're about halfway done with the show, anyways. So
yeah, we'll make it just fine.
Making good time.
If at any point you'll pass out, I'll just give my best guess as to which answer you think you'll give.
That might be fun. Do you have a favorite moment in mind already?
Do I have one in mind?
Yeah, do you have one in mind? Because I have one in mind.
I don't have a specific one yet in mind. I'm thinking.
Okay. What about action scene? Do you have a favorite action scene in mind yet?
I'll say.
Wait, no, don't say. Because you were saying that you were going to guess for me. That might be kind of fun.
Okay.
Let's try and guess each other's favorite action scene.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
So I'm gonna guess yours, and then you guess mine, and then we'll say whether we're right or not. So don't confirm or deny right off the bat. I'll guess, okay. Then you guess, and then we'll be like yes or no. All right.
Works.
So, knowing you as long as I have, I feel like you're the type of person that really enjoys when a movie sets the tone really well. That like reels you in and gets you hooked for the rest of the film. So I'm very inclined to say it's the opening sequence in South America. But there's so much of this film to enjoy that I don't know if your answer is going to be something that's like in the first 10 minutes of the film, because there's so much other greatness that happens after it.
Very
So
true.
I'm gonna say that the scene in South America is a close second, and your favorite action sequence is going to be. I'm gonna say it's on the Nazi island with the car chase, including where he gets the gunshot wound, has to go under the truck, takes out all the Nazis, takes the truck back. That whole sequence there, the car chase / hand-to-hand combat. That's your favorite scene in the movie.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm gonna say for you, and see, I was gonna say something similar because I feel like you were talking about the truck chase earlier, and I feel like, and it's so impressive, like how it is. I feel like that's just a classic scene that you would really dig. I don't know about a second choice though. We didn't think about second choices. I don't know about a second choice. I don't know. Are you like double bluffing me by choosing yours and then giving it to me? Is there some trickery going on here? We've played these games before, right? I know what to do. That's my final answer.
You're going with the truck scene.
I think so, yeah.
That's actually my close second. My actual favorite action scene is in Morocco, where you learn not to bring a knife to a gunfight.
Oh yes. That again, it's like that wasn't even in my mind. I wasn't even thinking about that one. But it's
there's
good.
There's a lot of chasing going through the crowds. Marion has to hide in a wicker basket. You like hide the truck in a garage and then bring out the townsfolk, and Indy's running all over the place. Comes across this guy who's like swirling everything around. And as we all know, as long as we've actually paid attention to the trivia, we know that was supposed to be an actual hand-to-hand combat scene, but Harrison Ford was down with dysentery at the time. So he improvised and just pulls out his pistol, bam, shoots the guy, scene over. Like, it's such a great action scene, that whole sequence. That was like a great like part of it. That is the one that gets me every time. I'm like, shoot, man, that's brilliant. I really probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, it's just like, I think it was the suggestion on set was like, just shoot the SOB. And like, yeah, why wouldn't he? Like, it makes total sense. So like, logically it makes sense, but also it's just so satisfying. You're like, oh yeah, here's gonna be a fight. Nah, he's just gonna shoot him and be done with it. Okay, for mine, I'm gonna say that you had it right the first time.
Really?
The one that I have in mind, the one that I think is my favorite, is the opening scene in South America. The whole it's just so classic. It's just so
it is, but there's so much other greatness that happens after that I was worried that, like, even though I know you appreciate a movie that sets the tone, like gets off on the right foot, I know how much you appreciate that. But I wasn't expecting that to actually still stay as your favorite scene, because there's just so many great scenes that happen afterwards.
Yeah, I can totally see that, and maybe ask me on a different day, I might have a different answer.
Who knows? Let's see. To be honest, Alex says Indiana Jones is a newer appreciation to me. I never liked it growing up, but rewatching it as an adult, I enjoy it quite a bit now. I still need to revisit a couple of them, though. Well, I'd say that this revisit's going pretty well as well. So maybe we'll need to end up revisiting some of the other films somewhere down the line. But it's going to be a while before any of those start celebrating 40 or 50 years. So as long as IPC is still around at that time, which I expect it will.
Well, I mean, in the near future, we will have a new Indiana Jones film to discuss, Indiana Jones 5, whatever that's going to be called. So, I'm sure we'll be discussing that. And, maybe along the lines, we'll get back to some of the older ones, because it has been, as we said, a very long time since we've discussed them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only revisit we've ever done since this one is The Dark Knight. Isn't that right? Uh-oh. Did we lose Mr. Jammin'? I think we might have. But if my memory serves, folks, while we're waiting for Ben to reconnect, if my memory serves, I think the only revisit we've ever done was for The Dark Knight, and that was just because I ended up missing that episode because I was out of town. So we waited a couple of years. We ended up coming back around and ended up doing that movie again. Steven says we've done Star Wars revisits. I'm kind of on the fence about those because, like, we went through all of the movies at one point. We went through everything, and then we ended up I don't know if we ended up going back to The Force Awakens again, if we ended up going back to Rogue One again. Like, we did all of those movies to prepare for The Force Awakens, but I don't recall if we've ever like gone back and discussed them again. So we did our primary discussion of the Star Wars movies back in 2015, but I don't know if we did it completely. Looks like the connection with Ben has been severed. We apologize for the technical difficulties. Ben says, please stand by, working on getting back online. So I'm going to take a look at the chat. Send us some stuff in the chat while we wait for Ben to come back. I think there was another one another comment that came out here. Imagine Indy's resume, Jesse says. Found Ark of the Covenant responsible for destruction of large Nazi battalion / badass. That's pretty darn true. Action scene, Jesse says, I'll go with the opening sequence. Kenny says, I have two favorite moments from Raiders of the Lost Ark. One is the first 10 minutes of the film and the truck chase towards the middle / end of the film. So those seem to be all really popular ones, and it's no wonder. I mean, as we've touched on, that particular scene with the trucks, you see like Harrison Ford kind of at his best. You see him, in hand-to-hand combat. You see him making the most of every situation that he's been given. And you kind of see his adrenaline junkie nature where he doesn't give up. He doesn't give in. He never surrenders. Galaxy Quest reference. But yeah, there's a lot of great things to appreciate about that scene. That is for sure. DMT Infinity. This is a good question. Ben said episode 38, looking for the previous Raiders discussion. Jesse, our Apple archives may not go that far back. We're working on trying to find a way to unlock it, but for a time there were some previous like really far back episodes that were for Podbean patrons only, and we're still working on getting those unlocked. So if you're not able to find it, we might be able to get you a copy of it, at least as like a MP3 download or something if you really, really want to know about it. But DMT Infinity asks, what is your number one favorite movie of all time? Do you have a number one favorite scene in all of movie history? That's a loaded question. It's a very loaded question. And it looks like Ben is back. Ben, can you hear me? It says he's in. He sent a chat saying that he is in. Ben's able to hear me, but I'm apparently not able to hear him. That may be an input issue, and we may have to ask our producer, Sean, for a little help. We'll see what we can do here. But going to your question, DMT Infinity, number one favorite movie of all time, I would probably end up saying, I know it sounds like a cop-out, but probably I'd say either The Dark Knight or Empire Strikes Back. Those are two movies that I could probably watch over and over again. Jurassic Park is up there. Like, those three are kind of like the holy trinity of comfort movies. Those are the ones that I end up watching the most. Those are the ones that I end up enjoying the most. But if I had to say, like, number one favorite scene in all of movie history, does the Battle of Helm's Deep count in Lord of the Rings? That entire battle is just fantastic. Great action, great characters, the loss of hope as you feel like, yeah, maybe you're doomed, and then, you know, that hope returns over the horizon just in the nick of time. I think that's probably one of my favorite scenes in movie history of all time. But if I had to pick a favorite movie, now that I'm thinking about it, it would probably be Jurassic Park. I watched Jurassic Park a lot more than I watched other films. So y'all be sure to keep sending in these chats because we're waiting on Ben to return. We got a few more questions that we're going to do, and we're going to have a really great barbecue segment in store for you guys tonight, talking about something that I had on my travels during my trip. While we're waiting for Ben to get back into the show, I'm going to go ahead and do some plugs, some obligatory things that we're going to do on the show anyways. A big thank you to people like Joey Mays and Jesse Bennett for your continued support of the show, both at the shout out friend tier or above. And if you're interested in getting a shout out on the program, you can find us now at patreon.com/IPC podcast. You can see that on the link below. It's in the little lower third, just underneath my face. So hit that up. We've got some really cool exclusives for patrons. We're going to be doing an R-rated episode of a show talking about Quiet Place Part 2 later this month. We're going to be doing some really cool stuff with the Fandom Empire team that's going to make some stuff available to their patrons as well. We've got this exclusive group for patrons only that has like a lot of behind the scenes stuff about our life and about the podcast, gives you an idea of the schedule, what to expect. You get exclusive access to our show notes now. You can look at the same thing that I'm looking at. So if you really want like to get that immersive experience, it only costs a couple of bucks a month to be a part of something bigger than just regular IPC episodes. So yeah, patreon.com/IPC podcast. You can also find us at ipcpodcast.podbean.com. Pod like pod, bean like green bean, ipcpodcast.podbean.com. And we have swag. We've got shirts and coffee mugs and, stickers, all kinds of crazy stuff available. And that is at teepublic.com, T-E-E like t-shirt, teepublic.com/user/IPC podcast. You can follow me at Zach the Voice, and you can follow Ben at Ben Hart with no E. He's got a lot more active socials than I do right now. Work has been taking up a lot of my time. So if you want to keep up with what we're doing, that's the best place to do it. Or you can find us at facebook.com/IPC podcast. You can get the link to the Patreon there. You can get the link to the Intergalactic Peace Hangout. If you're not part of that group yet, you should totally join that group as well. And you get some pretty cool immersive stuff. But that's for like the free tier. When you go a couple of bucks a month, you get a lot more to your credit.
Am I here?
Is Ben here?
Is this me?
It's Ben. I switched places with you. I'm on the other side
this?
now.
I can't deal with this.
What?
It's like I'm driving on the wrong side of the road or something. I don't know. My internet.
They switched
Oh,
me
he
back.
flipped it. Thanks.
Now our producer's just futzing with us. Now he's just having some fun. Oh,
yeah, good old internet just crapped out on me. It just happens. It happens, and I can't edit this out. It's on the video. It's on the YouTube. It's here.
Hey,
you guys saw everything.
I got the plugs done, so we're
I
good.
heard. I was here the whole time. I just couldn't get in
Okay, that works.
because I was locked out of the studio. All right, it just happened.
George has asked this question a couple of times. I'm going to go ahead and address it. Do you remember the scene with the Ark and the mouse, Zach? Scary and chilling scene for me in terms of the power the Ark has over creation. Yeah, the influence the influence goes beyond people, and that's part of what makes the Ark so interesting and so powerful. And part of why they probably chose it as like the first thing to do, like the first what do you call it, the MacGuffin? The first MacGuffin to go after would be the Ark of the Covenant.
Pretty much.
Do you remember VeggieTales by any chance?
I have never watched VeggieTales. I don't know why. It was in my circle. It just never happened for me.
That's funny. Being a homeschooler, I thought you were supposed to watch VeggieTales.
I know. I was a weird homeschool. I was weird for being homeschooled, and then I was weird for not watching.
It. Yeah, you were the weirdo among the weirdos.
Ostracized by everyone.
That's I know how that goes. They had a character called Minnesota Cuke that was supposed to be like their version of Indiana Jones. And the first MacGuffin that they were supposed to go look for was Samson's hairbrush.
That's brilliant. I love that. That is
and then a few years later they did a sequel where they had to go look for Noah's umbrella.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's good. I gotta watch some VeggieTales now, apparently.
Oh man, they make some really on the nose references, but they make some others that are just really ridiculous. And so it's fun to watch. It's fun to laugh at just because you're sitting there going, really? That's been a part of somebody's childhood? Like, yeah, bitch, that was part of my childhood. It was so funny. It was so funny. All right, let's get back to the questions now that we've done the plugs. We got a few questions left before we go to the barbecue segment and call it a night. We're hoping to be done by the top of the hour for you guys, kind of a intermediary type of episode as we kind of celebrate 40 years of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. Favorite quote? Matthias asks. Favorite quote?
I will say, and I had one. Okay, it's the moment with Statipo from the beginning of the movie, and he's trying to act all tough, and he goes, "We must hurry. There is nothing to fear." And then Indy grabs him and shoves him against the wall. He's like, "That's what scares me." Such a good line. Such a good line. Badass.
Nothing to fear. That. Ooh. Oh. Let me see. I'm trying to like remember one that like stands out.
Pretty much every line in this movie is quotable. So
that's
hard
true.
To pick a favorite.
Yeah, that is true. I feel like it would be a Belloc monologue, perhaps, or just.
It's got a lot of good ones.
Dr.
Jones, there's nothing you can possess that I cannot take away.
I think when he finally lands in the cavern and he goes, "What a fitting end to your life's pursuits. You're about to become a permanent addition to this archaeological find. Who knows? In 1,000 years, you may even be worth something."
I love Indy's response because he just goes, "Son of a..."
Yep. Classic Indy. Classic Indy. Star Wars references. This one should be easy for you. A favorite Star Wars reference?
Oh, probably. See, that's the whole thing. There's I think there's at least a couple of them. I'm trying to think of like one that's.
I found at least 3 on this article by Gizmodo. There's the OBCPO. That's the identifier. But then there's also one that's the hieroglyphs. And then it says, when Indy and Sala are preparing to remove the stone lid of the sarcophagus of the Ark, the viewer is privy to the wall of the hieroglyphs behind them. One of these is a depiction of Princess Leia inserting the Death Star plans into R2-D2.
Yeah, I think that might be the one. I think you can see it pretty clearly when Indy is trying to lift up the stone. And it's so like blink and you miss it, but like once it's there, once you know it's there, you can't miss it. I love it.
Man, we got a lot of like VeggieTales stuff in the chat just by making that one mention. Chad is like, VeggieTales! And then Jesse's like, we are the pirates that don't do anything. And DMT Infinity, wow. Okay, get a load of this. VeggieTales always gave me bad vibes for some reason. I watched Dragon Tales, Barney, Bear in the Big Blue House, horror movies like The Exorcist, Bruce Lee, and so many other shows growing up. You watch The Exorcist, but you won't watch like animated vegetables hopping around on a fake kitchen countertop. Like that that doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. I think the Leia and R2-D2 are probably like that's my favorite Star Wars reference in Indiana Jones, but my favorite Indiana Jones reference in Star Wars would be the Ark of the Covenant being loaded up into Wat Tambor's ship in the Clone Wars.
I love that so much. I love it just like cosmically somehow it ended up in a galaxy far, far away on Ryloth. Like that is the one. I love that.
How did it get there? We don't know. But no, I love little subtle nods like that. So much fun.
Yeah.
Matthias also asks, what do you think of the cinematography of this movie?
Oh, there's so many gorgeous shots in this movie. I'm not, I think this movie is so underrated for its cinematography. And like, I dare I say, I think it has better cinematography than like the first two Star Wars films. I'm just going to say it. I'm sorry. I know I'm a big Star Wars fan. That might be a hot take, but like Star Wars has great cinematography, but also there's so much special effects involved in Star Wars, whatever. You can tell there's so, it's going to be, it's more all in camera. There's so much like real stuff you can tell in Raiders, and like the behind shot of them, they're in the tent, and Sala and Marion and Indy are like talking, and like there's stuff going on in the background. All you see is their shadows, and they're just talking at each other. In Cairo is great, and there's so many other things, and the whole like the classic shot of Indy walks to the bar, and it's just like this giant silhouette. Again, Indiana Jones being this character that you can instantly tell who he is. Just seeing his silhouette is brilliant filmmaking.
So I found the director of cinematography for this film. It is one Douglas Slocum.
Yep.
Slocum, his last work was Last Crusade. His last given credit was Last Crusade in '89. His first filmography credit was a movie called The Big Blockade back in 1942.
Wow.
So this man...
Is he still around?
I don't believe so. I'm going to take a look. I'm looking at his wiki page. Passed away in 2016 at the age of 103.
Whoa, long life, man.
Born in 1913 and made the most of it. But he never won any Academy Awards. He was nominated 3 times, and his last nomination was for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wow, that's amazing.
He did win a BAFTA award for cinematography on the 1975 film called The Great Gatsby.
Oh, okay. The OG, or one of the OG.
The original.
Yeah.
Yep. He also got a LA Film Critics Association winner for cinematography for a 1977 film called Julia.
Okay, never heard of it, but I'm sure it's got great cinematography because he's clearly incredible and great, and all the cinematography in all the Indiana Jones films is great, especially those first 3. And I guess he just decided, hey, I did my best work. I'm checking out. I'm retiring. So I mean, good for him.
I mean, after you've made movies like The Fearless Vampire Killers and The Pirates of Penzance, then yeah, I would definitely call it quits after something like Last Crusade. That's a way to end on a high note if there ever was one.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, let me see.
What else
Not only did the art get there, how was it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away? How did it get there?
That actually implies that it was on Ryloth before it was on Earth.
Oh.
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Makes its way to our galaxy.
Yeah.
So are those spirits that got loose midi-chlorians then?
They're Force ghosts.
They're Force ghosts. Oh,
Force
man.
demons, maybe. I don't know. This is getting real deep.
Paw race. Who knows?
That's Tatooine sand in there.
That could be. To answer your question, Matthias, there are very few movies out there that I've seen that in my opinion, have better cinematography. And honestly, one of them would be The Last Crusade. I love the final scene in The Last Crusade and the camera work and the visuals. You know how they very creatively throw you off and make you feel like Indy's looking out over a cavern, but then he tosses the sand out there and you realize that like there's a hidden bridge like secretly in there that you didn't know about. That is some awesome badass camera work, and it takes somebody with the chops like Slocum to do something like that. So I really appreciate the work that was done on this, and it helped me enjoy the film so much more, recognizing the attention to detail that was made and recognizing shoot, I lost my train of thought. The Benadryl's kicking in.
I'll add an anecdote in here really quick. Something that I heard way back of like, you know, what is good cinematography? What is considered good cinematography? Because like, you know, I'm a yeah, exactly. I am a amateur student of film, if you could say that. I love movies. I love studying movies, but like I'm not an expert by any means. So I love questions like this. Love people like explain like, okay, what is this? And the barometer for like judging a film's like quality of cinematography is like basically you can just go through a movie, scrub through it, and if you just stop on any frame and it looks good, that is good cinematography. And in the case of Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's like you stop on any frame and it looks like a painting. Like it looks incredible. So like it's great cinematography. Let's just say that.
Whereas, okay, I really enjoy the cinematography of The Force Awakens as well, but you can't do that every frame type of thing with them, because there are some memes out there of Daisy Ridley just kind of like squinting her face really tight, looking kind of like, oh, like that.
Like older movies would be like, oh, you know, someone's in the background or whatever. It's like blurred. Now it's like all in HD, like better frame rate, so you get everything. If someone but extras in the background making a weird face, you're gonna see them.
Well, and what's funny is, and I haven't even shown this to my girlfriend yet. I'm gonna have to like show her that scene from A New Hope where the stormtrooper bashes his head on the door.
Yes.
How in the hell did that make it to the final cut? Like that still baffles me.
I just love that they incorporated it into the movie. They put the sound effect in there. They committed to it, and it's there. And I love that now. Friend of mine, Jamie Stangroom, did a investigation into who that stormtrooper actually was in real life, because there is multiple people that claim that they bumped their head on the set of A New Hope, and it's still a mystery. They don't know.
So nobody knows who the actual trooper is.
No, and one of the guys has passed away. So it's funny. It's funny because like, who's to say who's right and who's wrong? You know, there was probably a lot of stuff happening in 1970s London when those movies were being made.
True.
Maybe you thought you bumped your head once or twice.
A question from George: what's your favorite funny scene from Raiders, guys?
Funny scene.
There's a lot that's funny in this movie.
I love Indy arriving in the base and at the end, and then he's like, you know, he's got this, he grabs a guy and just flips him over and pulls him behind and then starts taking off all his clothes, and he gets him, he's like, uh-oh, this doesn't fit right. And the German guy comes up there and starts like berating him, like, and
then he just hits him.
Boom! And he just catches his hat. It's so good.
Yes, I was actually thinking about where like he's trying to like come up with an excuse or whatever, and then he ends up just hitting the guy. Like I couldn't remember the exact sequence, but I think that's probably my favorite part too. Like my favorite funny scene, like that. Okay. Also, the part where he and Marion are on the boat, and she asks, "Where does it not hurt?" And like starts pointing at different parts of his body, and then like he realizes what she's doing, and he's like doesn't even say anything, just points to his lips.
The thing where she's like adjusting the mirror and he's like sitting right there, and he pulls it back and it hits him like right under the chin, and it just zooms out the boat. That would hurt. That would really hurt.
Man, there's so many movies that have done that, and yet I still laugh at it every time.
Oh man, it's so good. But yeah, everything after you've been what he'd been through, Everything would hurt. Like every single part of your body would just ache. That would be awful.
I had to lift an ATM machine into the back of my truck, and my lower back is still hurting me from doing that yesterday. So I can't imagine like having to hold onto a moving truck and like slide and grip your way down, getting shot in the arm, like all the stuff that he went through. I can't fathom it.
I am at the time. I'm at the point in my life where I get up in the morning. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I slept wrong because I don't feel good, and I didn't do anything yesterday, but I pulled a muscle in bed, and that's what happens. Yeah, I can only imagine what Indy went through when he's actually getting like physically beat up and shot and all this kind of stuff.
I don't even want to think about that. Like that's the one thing about this movie that I'm just like, I could never be Indiana Jones. Like,
no,
I would probably be more like the guide in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, that's me. That's me, the scared guy going like, dude, this is not a good idea. No one ever has gone in there and come out alive. Like, this is wrong. And then trying to act like all badass, like, oh, there's nothing to fear. I'm just gonna go in here, and then, and then betraying him, taking the idol, and be like, okay, give me the idol, and y'all give you the whip, and then ended up dead, because I would end up dying in this.
Yep, I definitely would.
Real quick, I want to address a question that Kenny brought up in the group, and he says, kind of talk about some behind the scenes information. I have one behind the scenes story. I don't know if everyone's heard this, but I love this scene. So basically, the ending of the movie, the original end of the movie, was on the island right after the Ark is closed. That was where it ended, like them realizing they were untied, and that was it. Marcia Lucas, the then wife of George Lucas and legendary editor in her own right, at that point, I think she was Oscar-winning editor for work on Star Wars, suggested that there should be another scene at the end, and they went at the last minute and got Karen Allen and Harrison Ford and went to a specific, I think it's a courthouse in San Francisco, and shot the end scene with Harrison and Karen Allen on the steps, and that was the end of the movie. So thanks to Marcia Lucas, the movie ends the way it is, and I think it's perfect.
That's actually really cool. My piece of trivia was a lot more obscure. While they were filming in Tunisia, nearly every member of the cast and crew got sick. Like, it wasn't just Harrison Ford that came down with dysentery. Like, pretty much everybody got sick at one point or another, except for Steven Spielberg. You want to know how he didn't get sick?
Wow, was he wearing a mask?
Was little early for that one. No, he brought his own food with him, and he didn't eat any of the local food.
Oh, the joys of being the director. You get to bring your own food to set.
You know what he brought? According to a report on IMDb, he brought a ton of cans of SpaghettiOs.
That makes total sense. That really does.
The man avoided getting dysentery by eating canned SpaghettiOs that he brought with him.
Oh my gosh. That is hilarious.
That is just so crazy. Also, Indy's line about how it's not the years, it's the mileage was an ad-lib by Harrison Ford.
King of the ad-libs.
I love you. I know. It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. Get off my plane.
I have a feeling he's going to say it again in Indy 5. It's not the years, it's the mileage.
He kind of has to, because he's got even more years than he used to.
Yeah, and he's got even more mileage. He's never stopped, clearly. He's still wearing the same clothes he did when he was 20s.
Kenny sent us one more fun fact that I almost forgot about. He reminded us in the chat. Did you know that the original Indiana Jones might have been Tom Selleck?
I remember this. I remember that he was one of the people that was
He
in talks, or maybe he had even been selected.
he screen tested for it. Like, he got as far as screen testing and then opted not to take on the role so that he could continue his work on Magnum PI on CBS.
You gotta wonder if he regrets that decision.
I don't think so. I mean, Magnum's pretty big in its own right.
I mean, yeah, he's Tom Selleck. We're not talking about no-name Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck is Tom Selleck. He's a pretty big name. Everybody loves him. But, it's the luck of the draw. Like, in retrospect, you're like, oh, this movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark with a guy, fedora, like, this is going to be nothing. But I don't know, maybe he was passionate about making PI. I mean, they had some big names behind this, Lucasfilm, Spielberg, Lucas himself, so, but nothing's a guaranteed success, as we've learned. So, who knows? But that would have been different. I'm not saying it would have been bad, because we could easily be sitting here talking about, oh, Tom Selleck is great. And did you know that Harrison Ford actually tried out for the role of Indiana Jones, but he lost it to Tom Selleck? Did you know that?
Oh man, you mean Han Solo could have been the one in the fedora and the
Harrison
jacket?
Ford. There is a scenario where Harrison Ford could have played Han Solo and Indiana Jones. How crazy is that?
Wow, you mean that guy from Ender's Game could have also been rocking a whip?
I just don't see it. I don't think Harrison Ford's the fedora type. I really don't. I don't think it would have worked. I think a movie would have sucked if he had been in the movie.
I love Selleck. Don't get me wrong, but I can't picture anybody but Harrison playing that role. I can't. Like, if you told me Matt Damon, Shia LaBeouf, somebody like that was going to be the next Indiana Jones, I would laugh in your face.
Well, they tried to get Shia. He didn't want it. He didn't want it. He's out. And there's a reason why he's not in Indy 5.
Wonder
whole
why.
Whole other story. Shia's doing just fine, I think.
Yeah, he's doing okay. He's a meme anyways.
Do it!
Just do it! Yeah,
he's another kind of legendary now. He doesn't need Indy.
Well, dude, I know we're getting a little crunched for time, and we're gonna have a barbecue segment we got to talk about in just a couple of minutes here. So maybe we go into like what Raiders means to us. That'll be how we close things out. What does Raiders of the Lost Ark mean to you 40 years later? Obviously, we weren't around when the movie first released, but it's kind of become part of our culture. It's become a part of the stuff that we consume, the stuff that we watch, the things that we discuss on podcasts. So what does Raiders of the Lost Ark mean to you as it comes ready to celebrate its 40th anniversary?
It is the quintessential action adventure movie to me. Easily one of the best films I think ever created. And I mean, it really just like Star Wars, it kind of created its own genre. It's hard to kind of place where Indiana Jones is in there. And, I think Indiana Jones has always been like that other franchise that I've always loved since I was a kid. Indiana Jones is just there. You got Star Wars, you got Indiana Jones. It's just, they go hand in hand, and they're so fun. They're such fun movies. Like I said, it's less than 2 hours. Like, this isn't, you think of Indiana Jones as being this big epic franchise, but really it's not. It's just a fun romp. You can easily sit down and watch it. It's so approachable. Anybody can get something out of it. And it's got the humor, it's got the action that everyone pulls in. It'll make you a little scared. If you were a kid watching these movies, there's certain parts you're like, oh my God, their face is melted. But it's got all those things. It's this classic, I call it kind of the Spielberg Lucas scenario, this kind of mix of getting all these elements. I think so much of today's movies are really trying to be Indiana Jones. They are, I think, a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's very much action, comedy, goofiness in the same vein as Indiana Jones. I'm not saying they're copying it. I'm not saying I don't like those movies. I love those movies, probably because they're trying to emulate Indiana Jones, but Indy set the standard. It it did something, and it was being created by people that were doing Star Wars, but managed to do something completely different, but also something in the same vein. And it's just a perfect companion. And I think I like I said, I can't wait to Indy 5. I keep seeing these pictures. I'm like, I didn't realize I was this excited about this movie, but these movies mean so much to me. Even as someone like Indy is my number one franchise, but it's up there, and I can't wait for Indy 5. And I hope it continues. I hope we get more Indy films in the future. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see. But Raiders is an absolute classic, one that I will never pass up an excuse to go watch it again. So thanks, Matthias, for giving me another excuse to watch it for the 500th time or whatever. I'd watch it now.
Oh, man. For me, Indiana Jones it's a form of escapism. A lot of movies are forms of escapism for me, but this one is like a historical escapism because you've got, Nazis or you've got Russians, depending on which iteration you're watching. It's a form of historical escapism with fiction and action and comedy and great characters and great cinematography all rolled together into one great melting pot. And I enjoy watching it, not just because I enjoy the film, but I also enjoy the communal effect. Even if my girlfriend didn't really care for Raiders, I appreciated getting to experience it through somebody else's lens. And to have that kind of experience with people who maybe haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a long time. The communal aspect is another really great thing about this film, because one scene that may stand out to you, it may not be the same scene that stands out to somebody else. There's a lot of variety in this film. There's a lot of different types of takeaways, love interests, action adventure, car chases, explosions, gunfights, knife fights, hand-to-hand combat. There's all kinds of great action tropes that are all thrown together into one extremely well-written and well-produced movie. And I would expect nothing less from Lucas and Spielberg. So, gentlemen, thank you for creating this franchise, and thank you for helping make it so easy to enjoy a movie. Like, for me personally, it is one of the easiest movies to just get along with. As soon as we go on the adventure in South America all the way up until the end of the film, it is so easy to get on board with the adventure and enjoy the ride however long it may last.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, yeah, I completely agree.
Oh, man. Okay, I know it's probably something that we did before. I don't know if we introduced scores out of 10 back in the day. But, like, honestly, I don't have anything about this movie to critique. I really don't. I mean, yes, I am left wondering what Amy, what logic she may have to the idea that, Indiana Jones doesn't exist. It's still going to happen exactly the same way. But if Indiana Jones doesn't exist, we don't get to go on this adventure with them. So I guess I'll knock 0.5 off for Amy making me think about this movie a little bit more in a different context than I really wanted to. But to me, it's essentially a flawless film. It's at least a 9 to 9.5, if not a 10 out of 10.
I think I'm going to agree. I honestly have, it's one movie that, I watch it, zero complaints. There's nothing. If they told me, hey, let's go back in time, or we have some kind of unique technology where you can go back and change anything about this movie meticulously, I wouldn't. Why? There's nothing wrong with this movie. There's absolutely nothing. It's perfect. And I'm not someone, I try not to use this, well, it's not perfect. I hate using that term so often because 99% of movies aren't perfect, but the 0.111% of movies that are, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark is in that percentage. And I will give it a 10 out of 10. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to give it a 10 out of 10 because it deserves it. All right.
Oh, man. Well, I already did the plugs, so I guess we just go into the barbecue segment, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Might as well. Folks, if you're in the chat, and I know there's a lot of you that still are, thank you for joining us as late as you have. But get out your hashtag. It's time for an edition of BBQ Watch. Not going to play the music, just going to go into it. Ben, for those of you who don't know, works in a barbecue restaurant, family owned and operated for decades. And I'm from Texas, and I love to experience barbecue in different facets, in different fashions, and in different towns. And most recently, I got to experience some barbecue in a little town south of the state capital here in Texas, a little town called Lockhart. Lockhart, Texas is famous for their barbecue. There are 4 different barbecue joints in this town that are like top rated barbecue in the entire state.
Wow.
All of them located in this one place. There's a place called Smitty's. There's a place called Kreitz. I forget what the third one is called, but the one that we went to is one called Black's Barbecue. All the other places, this is a testament to how small of a town this is. All the other places closed at 8, and Black's was closing at 8:30.
Oh, nice.
Like, the town was getting ready to shut down. Most restaurants that I go to, they're open till like 10, 11, something like that. But in this small town, 8:30.
Sidewalks.
Roll up the sidewalks. It was closing, and we got there at like 8:10. Because my family and I had been doing this tour of the different county courthouses in the state. Beautiful stuff.
Which was incredible, by the way. Check out your social media. That was great.
Man.
I love seeing all those pictures.
Oh, man. Some of those were just breathtaking. But we finally make it to Lockhart. We make it to Black's. And we're getting big pints of sides so that we can do it family style. And then we ordered drinks, and we ordered 3 or 4 different kinds of meat. I got baby back ribs and sausage, and my parents got brisket.
Oh,
because that's really the best and only kind that my mom can have. And so she had brisket and then decided to share with the rest of us. I think they got 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds or something like that. They got a lot of brisket. Lot of brisket to go around. And let me tell you, dude, it was hard getting the brisket off of one plate onto the other. That's how soft and tender and how falling apart this brisket was. It looked like you would scoop it and literally it would fall off either end of the fork, and you'd only have a small bite's worth left. You literally could not move the brisket from one place to another. And I took a bite. I saved it for the end. I took a bite, and I had this instant regret. And the reason why, hey, look, we've actually got a photo. I enjoyed the baby back ribs. I enjoyed the mac and cheese. I enjoyed everything that was on this plate. Believe me, the sausage is homemade. They made it at the location.
Wow.
I enjoyed everything on this plate, but I hated myself because I ate around the brisket and then saved the brisket for last.
Oh.
And I was getting full by the time I got to the best thing on the menu.
Oh, the wrong strategy.
It was the wrong plan because I could have just eaten brisket that night. That's not a knock on the mac and cheese or the ribs. The ribs actually had a lot of meat on them. It was really good. The sausage had great flavor. And you know how some sausage links like that have a tendency to maybe get cold after it's been away from the heat lamp for too long?
Right.
That stuff stayed warm. It was really good, had good insulation. The meat was very tasty. But the brisket, I had a bite where it literally disintegrated when it hit my tongue. I didn't have to take one bite. I didn't have to chew it. I just, done. Oh my gosh. I want to go back to Lockhart just so that I can go to Black's again, so that I can go to Kreitz, so that I can go to Smitty's. I'm going to have a whole weekend of just having barbecue at this place because it was fabulous.
That does sound fabulous. That sound. I'm looking at the image right now that everyone else is seeing. That looks incredible. That brisket, man. Brisket's not easy to do. It doesn't come naturally like that. It doesn't come naturally tender. You got to cook it real good, and they seem to be experts at it. That's incredible.
Oh man. So they've got signs on the side of the road as you're coming into Lockhart that actually list the names of the pit masters at each location. Like, they are so proud of their barbecue pits. They are so proud of the work that they do that they actually list the pit masters on the billboards as you're coming into town.
Wow.
Which is pretty awesome. DMT Infinity says, y'all making me hungry.
That's what we do.
I live in Louisiana, so we're not that far apart. But yes, family restaurants and businesses are usually some of the best. I can attest to this. I can definitely attest to this because I've eaten at Ben's family's place before. And while they have the best ribs I've ever eaten, I dare say dinner at Black's was possibly the best brisket I've ever had in my life. And I'm a brisket guy, so that's high praise.
I've had dinner, which was not barbecue, by the way. But having barbecue like a lot, I'm surrounded by it all the time.
Right.
And you're making me hungry too. So I think we just need to wrap up the show now. So maybe I'll just drive to Texas tonight and get some of my own. I don't know. Because I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. Oh, he has frozen. Oh, are we back? Hello.
Hello.
I think we're here now.
I don't know if that was me. I feel like that was me because I think my internet.
It was your turn. It was your turn to have issues.
We're
5 minutes from closing, and you've got to have something.
That is the internet letting us know that it's time for our producer Sean to go to bed.
Yeah. I think Sean just cut it off. It's like, okay, these guys. It's
He's
like
like,
a minute.
You're
It's
done.
a minute past midnight. You've had plenty of time to talk about this barbecue crap and all this Indiana Jones stuff. So it's time to call it quits.
Well, it is time to call it a night anyway. We told everybody about 2 hours, and that's what we're coming up on. Thank you to everybody that has been a part of tonight's show. A reminder to go find us on the socials at IPC Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow me at the username that you have been seeing down here the whole evening at Zach the Voice. Mr. Jammin, where can the folks keep up with you?
They can find me at Ben Hart with no E, or at Ben Hart the Indie Guy on Twitter now, because I just changed it thanks to inspiration from the chat and Chad, and also at the Star Wars Underworld, at the SW, and at Culture Slate, where I do most of my other work and stuff, and most of the stuff that doesn't have my name on it. You can't really tell it's me, but it's me. I'm everywhere.
Oh man, it happened to me again. I don't understand what's happening. I really don't. I thought we made it this far and that we'd be good. We came so damn close. So damn close.
Just the way it happens.
Oh man, but now I'm hungry too. So, it's fine if you saw my look. Sean's sending me a text saying it's fine if you saw my look. I don't know. I really don't know what happened there. So, thank you all for your patience. Thank you, Sean, for sticking it out with us. I know that you had other things you were supposed to do tonight, so we appreciate you being in the producer's chair for tonight's show. Thank you to everyone that was a part of the chat. Very active chat again tonight. We appreciate it a lot. We're back in 2 weeks, and we're going to be talking about the recent stuff that's been happening in the Jurassic franchise, most notably the poster. We're going to be taking a look at some of the stuff that's going to be possibly behind the scenes from Fast and Furious 9 and the new season of Camp Cretaceous. So if you haven't seen it yet, get on Netflix, go get caught up. It won't take you more than a couple of hours. It's a pretty short binge, but it's full of really awesome dino nerdiness. So all of that is still to come on the next episode of the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast. A reminder to keep your eye out for special exclusives here on Fandom Empire, and as well as Fandom Empire Live every Tuesday and Thursday, the Rick and Morty show, and so much more here on this channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Be on the lookout for when we're coming back. But until that time, good night, everyone.
This podcast is sponsored in part by Benjamin Hart
That's me.
and yours truly, Zach Arnold.
And by participation from listeners like you. So let's tune in to another episode of
IPC.
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 IPC. IPC. IPC.
IPC.
IPC.
IPC. The Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast.
All the galaxies.
All for you.